Welcome to the Greater Irvine Chamber Business Insights podcast series, where we address challenges and ideas for early-stage and entrepreneurial business leaders. Your host today is Dave Coffaro, Interim President and CEO of the Greater Irvine Chamber.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the Greater Irvine Chamber podcast. I'm Dave Coffaro, and I'm pleased to welcome you today. And one reality that we face as business people, and in particular small business owners, is that there are some things that we really excel in and other things that may not be our strengths. Now, with large companies, we can navigate this by building a team that capitalizes on each individual's strengths. But when you run a smaller business, a lot of times our team members can extend outside of the walls of our own business. So when I think about people to bring on to my team, I've recently come to think about the Small Business Development Center, and we're really fortunate to have an amazing SBDC right here in Irvine and Orange County. My guest today, Sylvia Pizarroso, is Director of SBDC Finance Center for Orange County and the Inland Empire. So Sylvia, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me. I'm pleased to be here today.
Let's start out by telling us a little bit about your background and how your career journey led you to the SBDC.
Absolutely. So I recently retired from banking, having spent 37 years in finance and banking. Most recently, the last 14 years with JP Chase. I spent 12 years in their business banking division and 2 years in their commercial banking division. Prior to that, I spent 21 years with Citibank and their equipment finance group. So deep finance and banking background. About 15 years ago, when I joined Chase in the South LA area, I met Mike Daniel, who is now the regional director of the SBDC Orange County Inland Empire. And we started doing some business. He would send me referrals from time to time. During that time, I also started networking in different organizations, as a banker to do business development. Through that, I found out there was a lack of education and resources for the small business community. And I found myself with extra time. My kids had grown up, and so I started volunteering after work, delivering different seminars, educational seminars for the small business community around access to capital and other topics that were misunderstood. And through that, I found my passion of volunteering, and I figured, I have knowledge around small businesses and finance, so I just it took off from there. So I became highly involved in the Orange County Hispanic Chamber 8 years ago. I became a board member and most recently the chairwoman. And the Finance Center at the SBDC is actually hosted by the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And so when this opportunity came up and they knew I was retiring from banking, it was a natural transition to go into this role to continue to help the small business community and have a passion for it.
That's cool. So shout out to Ruben and the Hispanic Chamber, good friends of ours. We love collaborating with them. Let's start with a really fundamental question, Sylvia. What is the Small Business Development Center?
Well, the Small Business Development Center is a business consulting organization that is funded by grants from the Small Business Administration, the State of California GoBiz Fund, and host organizations. What we do is we provide confidential and no-cost consulting services to the small business community.
So that in itself is really appealing. No cost to the small business community. And many of our members are small businesses. That means that everything that you do is funded by SBA, GoBiz, and other organizations?
That's correct. And again, we have some amazing resources here at the SBDC that the greater small business community is not aware of. So our goal right now is to, make sure that we expand the knowledge about all these amazing resources that are available to them.
Well, let's accomplish that goal right now. Let's talk about some of the services that you offer. What are the primary areas of focus when you think about what you have available in your group?
So we focus on four main areas. Let's just go over the kind of our network slightly. There are SBDC chapters across the nation. Our particular chapter covers Orange County and the Inland Empire, and we have 10 centers within our region. And different centers focus on different areas, but the main four areas are business planning services, which includes business plan development, business formation, lease negotiation, research, site selection, permitting and license guidance. Those are like the main areas of focus within our business planning services. The second one is management and people services, and that could include things such as accounting, hiring, workforce subsidies, finance, operations, and government and corporate contracting. And within that, they also assist the small businesses with certifications for government and corporate contracting. The third area of focus is marketing and people services, and that includes marketing, branding, sales, and public relations. And the fourth area is funding, which is my center, the finance center. And that includes loan packaging, assistance with loan and funding preparation, and it could include financial projections as well.
So let's go a little deeper into your area. And by the way, I don't want to minimize the rest of it because there is a ton built into what you just covered, Sylvia. But let's just talk about your group, your team, and specifically what you offer.
Absolutely. So my team focuses on finding capital for small businesses, and that could include debt, equity, or even things such as crowdfunding. So what we do here is we do business financial review, personal financial review, loan packaging, lender matchmaking, and we also do training around access to capital and cash flow. At the same time, we're also developing lender partnerships to make sure that we have, enough lenders out there that could accommodate a lot of the different profiles that we come across as we're helping the small business community.
So when it comes to looking for business capital, that can feel overwhelming for a lot of us. What role do you and your team play in terms of helping small businesses find the right funding solutions and making it work best for them?
Well, essentially what we're doing is we're doing a comprehensive analysis of the financial, condition of the company, and we're pre-underwriting. We're looking at the business financial information, the personal financial information, and essentially we're doing a global analysis, global cash flow, because that is what, a lot of lenders are looking for to ensure to find out if the company has the cash flow to support a loan. If for some reason the cash flow is not there and we feel that maybe the documentation's not quite there or they're not quite ready, we put a plan together so that they could be capital ready 6, 12, 2 years from now, because sometimes it could take that long as they need to work on certain things within their company. Now, we don't provide any tax or legal advice, but we can definitely identify areas of improvement, and we work along with their CPAs, their tax advisors, on some of the areas that they need to work on to be ready, let's say, next year. For example, right now we're July, and if we get a client that is looking for capital and for some reason they don't quite qualify because maybe the 2023 information showed some losses or there were some challenges there, they still have 6 months to work on certain things so that by the time they file taxes in early 2025, they might be loan ready, because in many cases, they only need a 1 year cash flow. Some lenders are only looking for 1 year cash flow. So again, we put that plan together to help them get there.
That sounds like it would be super helpful, especially for people that the finance element is not necessarily their strength, to just be able to know how a lender would look at their financials and then provide them input and consultation on how to shore things up to make their application more appealing to lenders.
Yeah, so we walk the business owner through that process. What does the application look like? The checklist. What are lenders looking for? And it could be sometimes different from business to business. The industries, certain industries are different than others, and some lenders may not be lending to certain industries at the moment. So just ensuring that they understand what lenders are looking for. So when we collect the financial information and we go through the analysis, and we feel that there might be something out there, we identify certain lenders that might be interested in that particular profile. And with the client's permission, we allow them to go into our secure data room to go take a peek at the financials and give us some feedback. Uh, Oftentimes, they might say, oh, you know what? Whatever you have is 90% of what we need, so we can take a loan application now. Or they might give us feedback and say, no, they need to work on ABC, or we need to see a couple more things. So this is all before they they submit a formal application and any credit report is pulled. So we're just going behind the scenes to get that feedback before any of that happens. And we're saving a lot of time to the small business owner because, sometimes they don't know where to go. I'll give you an example. I had a client that contacted us, I think 3 weeks ago. They're buying a restaurant here in Orange County, and they had gone to 4 different banks to seek a loan. Uh, they were turned down at all 4 banks without even putting an application. Reason being is they're not lending to restaurants. Right now it's a little difficult. So they found their way to us, and we still have lenders out there that are non-bank lenders that are lending to that industry. And so we're gathering the information right now to see if we can put him in front of some of those lenders. But again, he had gone physically to 4 banks, and it was a no at each one before he even submitted an application. So we have those types of relationships where we can identify different lenders, different options for them.
So you could have saved that client a lot of time if they would have come to you first, so they didn't have to go to those 4 banks to get a no, and you could have guided them to the possibility of a lender that was interested in lending to restaurants right off the bat, right?
Yes, yes. And then again, they were not aware of it. Somehow, through talking to somebody in that network, they found out that we existed, so they found their way to us.
Yeah, boy, that's super helpful. How do you and your team keep up to date on which banks are lending in which industries and all of that?
Well, we conduct quarterly calls with different lenders, and we're always identifying new opportunities with lenders out there. It changes; it's very dynamic. If a bank or a lender was lending on a particular industry last year, or the guidelines were, X last year, things change. I know, going back to the restaurant industry, in talking to one lender, they were heavily lending to that industry the last several years, but right now they paused because their portfolio, it's heavily, relied on restaurants. So they're taking a pause, and they're hoping that they'll start lending to that industry again next year. But for now, you know, they're not taking any more restaurants. So we're always in contact with them to find out, what they're doing, what their current guidelines are, and what industries they're in and out, essentially.
Boy, what a great way for small businesses to save a lot of time and energy by just coming to you, and you can guide them to the right place. That's fantastic, Sylvia. You mentioned financial review, and I know that review of the financial statements, whether it's the business or the personal ones, is critical to any business. What all do you cover in this area?
We're essentially looking for, we're doing a global cash flow analysis, because it's all lenders, the first form of repayment is cash flow. Does the company have the ability to repay that loan. And unfortunately, some small business owners that don't have, a finance background, their expertise is in other areas. They have the misunderstanding that cash flow is cash in the bank. When many times you tell them, I'm sorry, you don't have enough cash flow. They're like, well, what do you mean? I have $100,000 in the bank. Well, that's not the same as cash flow. So we, as mentioned before, we do the pre-underwriting. We do the analysis. We do all the ratio analysis to see if they have enough cash flow to support that loan. And then identifying areas in which maybe if they're not ready today, they can get there down the road. What happens sometimes, many small business owners are taking, liberties to minimize tax liability. And we get it. That's the reality of our world. However, they should be mindful that if they're going to go get a loan or they're doing anything related to capital, even if they're looking for an investor or getting a loan or even looking to get a contract, oftentimes, some of your customers may be asking for your financial information. They want to make sure you have the financial capacity to deliver on that product or service that that you're providing to them. So it's really important for them to understand what goes into all of those things. So that's what we do. We do essentially doing pre-underwriting so that we figure out if they have the ability to take a loan now or not. We also review other things such as collateral, because sometimes they have the misconception, especially some startups, that I have this great idea, great product, which is great, but they have to have some skin in the game. So lenders are going to be looking for equity infusion or a down payment and collateral. What is there to secure that loan? So we go through the entire process as we were a lender, so they understand, what lenders are going to be looking for. So by the time we put them in front of somebody, all of those questions have been answered and addressed with the business owner.
It sounds like you're really helping small business owners, small business leaders understand what it means to think like a banker.
Yes, because sometimes they don't understand. They go somewhere and they're like, "Oh, I got declined, but I don't know why." So
Yeah.
we'll tell them why. You're not
Yeah.
you're missing X, Y, and Z, but it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Sometimes, again, you gotta put a plan together, work on that plan, and then get ready maybe next year.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of thinking like a banker, you recently joined SBDC from the banking world. What surprised you the most about what your new organization makes available to small businesses when you joined SBDC?
Well, I was familiar with the SBDC prior to me joining, so I thought I understood the organization, completely when I joined. But the one thing that surprised me the most is the depth of knowledge of all the consultants within our network alone. So we have 120 consultants in our region alone with deep, deep knowledge around different areas of expertise. Even within my team, we have 6 consultants. They combine experience of all of these 6 consultants is 177 years in various areas. And throughout the network, we have that same level of expertise, people that are experts in their particular field. And yeah, the knowledge and experience of some of these consultants is deep, and they're available to be part of a small business team, because if you reach out for consultation around a topic, a particular situation, they'll be your extended team, as you mentioned, because they'll be guiding you through whatever the need might be at the time.
I've been so impressed with you, Sylvia, with other people on your team in the organization. We had a workshop here recently on how to use AI to market and grow your small business. And with that team and with the folks who specialize in SEO, I learned recently you have somebody who specializes in helping you develop your podcast and marketing and all these kinds of things. So those 120 consultants are tremendous resources to all of our listeners. So as we come to a close of today's session, we've covered a lot of terrain, But what one thought or piece of advice would you like to leave with our listeners as it relates to your business?
My one piece of advice would be to make sure you have up-to-date financial information for a couple reasons. Uh, Having up-to-date financial information is the lifeblood of smart decision making for any small business. It's like having a dashboard of your financial health. That current data will allow you to track progress towards your goals, identify areas of improvement, and make informed choices about, allocating your resources within the company. It also helps you with investments and also obviously funding needs. Outdated financials can lead to missed opportunities, poor budgeting, and even difficulty securing loans. So we saw this during the PPP days, the idle days. Some of the financial documentation that was required was basic, and a lot of businesses did not have it, so they missed out on that opportunity. So it's really, really important to have that information because as a business owner, it's going to allow you to prepare for the future. That data is actually, unfortunately, past data. But if you don't react quickly enough, you're not going to be able to pivot and make changes that are necessary for any mishaps that you may have had, during the last 3 or 6 months in the business.
Wonderful advice, Sylvia. You are a terrific resource, you and your team. So folks, listeners, I encourage you to reach out to Sylvia and her team if you have questions, if you're just curious. The 120 consultants of the SBDC across the region, they're here for you. And I'll go back to what you said at the beginning, Sylvia, at no cost. So take advantage of that opportunity, folks. Sylvia, thank you so much for joining us today. Folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for the Greater Irvine Chamber Business Insights podcast. To stay informed about upcoming podcasts and other important business news, please subscribe to our channel or check the Greater Irvine Chamber website.